What is up? Do you get spam calls, spam text messages? Are you never sure when it's an unknown number, if it's somebody trying to rip you off, or like if you should click that link in the email? Hint, you really shouldn't, you know?
If you
Because it,
should give that company your email, your name, your address, your
yeah,
birthday, everything so that you can just sign up to use some stupid app that they have. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Like it feels sometimes like everybody's trying to rip you off. And like, can you trust anyone anymore? Well, if you're wondering that, you're in luck, because that's the topic today. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Danny, and everybody, Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
So you came up with again this topic. So what was your thinking? Just all that stuff basically?
Dude, it's literally like I just feel like you can't trust anyone anymore. There's like zero like you just can't trust anybody.
Wait,
It's
dude, you know
crazy.
what's crazy? Like, no, it is though, because like even like things that like ostensibly are like business, like medical businesses and stuff like that, like you can't even trust their billing anymore. Like you have to go through everything yourself. Like the user is required to do so much now just to ensure that they're getting what they paid for at the price they agreed to, which shouldn't be an issue. And then on top of that, that's just like regular companies. Then you have all these scammers and things, and it's like because I think we've I don't know. I wonder sometimes if that's because of the value we put on just having wealth over everything else.
Hmm.
That money means more than friends, relationships, everything. All that matters is having more than everybody else, and like the jealousy, envy that comes with that, the greed. Like I think that's put us in a position of just like wild, trust issues and people trying to take advantage of others.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I I mean, there's so many experiences I've had recently where I was just like, I can't freaking believe, like, again, you just can't trust anyone. And then these companies like lose all of your data.
Oh, constantly,
And,
dude. Yeah,
they're selling your data, making tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever it is. And then they lose
billions.
all of your data and they're like, oh, sorry.
No, the best is though when they lose it and they tell you 6 months later when it's already out on the black market. And then
Yeah.
dude, the best was Equifax, the credit rating company lost 150 million American things. And then they gave them a year worth of uh LifeLock, which they own, by the way.
Hmm.
And it's like, everything feels so sleazy anymore. It really does. Like
Hmm.
you can almost tell like these companies have no pride in what they don't give a crap at all. And
Yeah.
and you see that then echoed, I think, in other people, like people doing literally just straightforward scams and stuff like that. And like even governments, and stuff getting in on the game. Like it's really messed up. And
Hmm.
I think like, do we have an issue of trust now, do you think? Like, is it just like that we live in a world where you can't trust people or like,
I think there's definitely a palpable less ability to trust after 9/11. Like up until it seemed to me like, and again, I was still young at that point, so I don't exactly know. But up until that point, it seemed like you can trust to a relative degree. You can trust the government, you can trust the police, you can trust your safety, and you can trust, other people. And then all of a sudden, things just started going haywire after that, where it's like you can't trust anybody, can't trust the government to take care of you, can't trust police officers. They're gonna, and it's just like all this different stuff. And now it's just can't trust anybody. And
I
then
never,
every business now is just like they don't really care about their customers. So they're just like, screw them. Let's get as much money as we can. And,
yeah.
doesn't matter because we can just advertise more, get more customers, and that's just churn and burn, baby.
Well, it's the buyer's fault, right? For being stupid and buying that thing,
Yeah.
even though they had no other choice. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And like, it's just it is interesting because it does feel like it's like harder and harder to like actually trust people. And like
Mhm.
I wonder too, like, because it's like I remember being younger too, like and when the news was only on twice a day, basically. Like it was on like you had that early morning before work. It was like, for a few hours they would run it before work, it was half hour, right? And then at night. And you could I felt like back then you could trust the news because it was like they didn't have time to do opinions and stuff. It was basically just like this happened, moving on. This happened. It was basically very factual. Then we transitioned to that 24-hour cycle. And I think that has been a big part of it too, I think, was this loss in trust in the media. That people started to finally see that, like, oh, wait, the media is run by people that have opinions, views, agendas, and they're dictating what's being told to us. It's just more apparent now because it's on a 24-hour cycle, so you see it. right? And they're,
Hmm.
and I think that's also been a huge, huge, huge thing of like lost trust was that. And then on top of that, like we talked about in other episodes, like the fraudulent scientific articles and stuff. Like it seems like everywhere you look, you see cases of fraud, of lying, of cheating, of whatever to get ahead. And so it makes you wonder, like, is any of this reliable? Is any of this actually what it says it claims to be? Or is it something else underhanded?
Hmm. I wonder if there always was the same amount of fraud. It just didn't get reported as much. Maybe you just
It,
didn't hear about it. Because there were the snake oil salesmen.
oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's
And
always been to a degree. It's probably just more widespread now and we know about it more now, because of the internet. Like, I mean, think of it. There's snake oil salesmen, they might be able to trick a town, but they couldn't trick the world, right? But now you could trick
well,
the
they just go
world.
from one town to the next.
Yeah, till they do the whole world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think there's always been people trying to find the quickest route to get ahead, right? I guess is one way to look at that. But I think there's even maybe it was misplaced, but I think people probably had more trust in institutions back then. Maybe
Hmm.
not everyone, but maybe like, I think whereas now I think like, have you looked at I mean, the ratings for like the US government are the lowest they've ever been, I think, for trust and like confidence and stuff. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. I think, it didn't help that, all that stuff came out about the police and like what they were doing. I mean, I think there's like we're finally starting to see like the Catholic Church with all the molestation
Hmm.
stuff, like, these huge, huge cases come out where you realize like, oh, these places that are supposed to be working for us instead were behind the scenes protecting their own self over the people that come to them. Whether it's
Yeah.
the church passing bishops around or whatever who are molesting kids so that they're out of the area, or whether it's like, the government lying to you or, finding out all these horrible things police did, whatever it is. But like it is hard to trust. But
So
then
what
again,
do you
it's all
do when there
people.
is
What
no
do we
trust?
expect? You know?
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like I keep coming back to, you know, I feel like I'm turning into an old man because everything around me, I'm just like,
That's
oh,
it.
this
That's
is wrong with the
unavoidable.
world,
It's
and
gonna
that's wrong
happen.
with the world, and it was better back then. And I'm just like, you know, the world always must have been falling apart like it is now. It
The
had to
difference
have.
is though, I think the younger people also look at the world and say the same things. Now,
Yeah,
this is messed up. It's
right.
broken. What did you guys do?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, maybe that is it. I don't know. It's funny. Yeah. I mean, I always try to like, I mean, the good thing is you can still try. I think you can still have people in your life that you trust, which is good. Like, if you have
Hmm.
some good relationships, you can still have trustworthy people in your life that you can rely on. But I don't feel like I could rely on like other institutions or anything ever. And I don't know if I ever felt that way that much, but like I've never really trusted it, like, I've
Yeah.
lost even like the education system. I used to have trust in that. I don't anymore. Like, all these things have just been like, yeah,
Yeah.
devoid of
And I
any
hate it.
foundation.
I hate how like all of these apps and websites and everything are asking for so much information just to like use their stupid little app or their
Yeah,
product or their
yeah,
whatever. And it's just like you know that whatever you give them, they're going to either lose it or abuse it.
yeah.
So it's just like, yeah.
There's only two things are going to happen because they don't care about because they know nothing's going to happen to them.
Hmm.
Like all these companies that
Yeah.
lose data, nothing ever happens. It's not like
Yep.
and like, they don't get any trouble or anything. So it's like, why would they care? That's a way to make money, baby. Do it.
Hmm. Yeah, do it.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
Oh, did you hear, talking about losing data, did you hear that the other day Google's search algorithm was exposed through a GitHub commit that they had? And
No
yeah,
kidding. Their
yeah,
whole
and apparently,
algorithm, really?
yeah, Fireship did a thing on it, and apparently it wasn't the whole algorithm, and they denied that this was the actual current thing. They said that it was
Yeah.
an older one, but
I mean,
still,
that
it was
thing's
a, it
gotta
was
be
a,
complex as hell, though, I imagine. Like,
yeah. And it was like a whole bunch of things that they said didn't affect the algorithm were included in this. So it's pretty interesting.
yeah. Well, it's like, did you know, we were talking about that before, I think when Meta first released its AI thing, people were able to find out what the algorithm was for Facebook and stuff because they asked
Mm.
it and I guess it didn't
Huh.
delete it. They didn't like, yeah, and it's funny
Nice.
because like but that's the other thing I think, like we're finding out, like, for instance, like social media, right? Like I just heard the other day actually that the CDC has finally said that like it's damaging to young people's mental health.
Jeez, you think?
Finally, yeah. And like,
Like, what more
but
evidence did they need?
well, this is the other thing, right?
They're like,
I
we'll wait
remember,
for a few more 100,000 suicides before
yeah,
we'll say this is bad for their mental health.
right. But I remember years ago, like before Congress, right? Like I remember Zuckerberg standing up there being like, we don't have our algorithms to target blah 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 blah. And it's like then it turns out, oh yeah, they do. Like because
Mhm.
emotion sells. And so like, dude, they did a study where they found like if you logged into Facebook and said you were a young girl, like say like, I don't know, like 11 to 14, within like minutes, your feed is full of stuff on like how to do eating disorders, body image, all this crap that's so unhealthy. And it's like because it gets them emotional and they keep watching and keep gauging. And like
Yeah.
it's really predatory. And I think
Hmm.
that's the sad part, that like, but I think this is it. We're finding out that like all these things were built by people and they're all crap. So, it's like,
Dude, not to mention, like, most people are feeding their minds with this garbage before they go to sleep. Like, I can't
yeah,
even tell you how many people I know when I tell them I wake up at an unreasonable hour in the morning, they're like, "Oh my God, I don't even go to sleep by then." And I'm like, "Let me guess, you're like on Instagram and TikTok before sleep?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, there's your whole night." And like,
I do.
that's
Yeah.
pro yeah.
I have my phone goes into bedtime mode at like, I think I set up like 8:45. So I get like the only people that can contact me are like a couple people. Their like calls will go through like as emergency.
Hmm.
And then like I never go on social media anyway, I guess. But like at night, all I do is like I'll watch like cartoons for like maybe an hour if I feel like if I'm awake or read. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't do any of that at night. It's not good.
Yeah.
But I
I
think
was
that's
thinking
also
I
oh go
uh,
ahead. Sorry. I was gonna say
so
that's
like
part of it, right? Realizing but realizing when these things trigger you. Like I know the news pisses me off. If I watch the news, I feel myself getting angry, so there's no reason to watch it, right? Because what's the point?
hmm
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I noticed recently that I've been drinking too much coffee and caffeine. And so I was just like,
Like
okay,
all I
it's time
drink.
dude. Because I was just like on a whole level of tweaked like 24/7. And I was just like, I just need to rest. Like I'm done with this
That makes sense. Yeah,
caffeine
calming
stuff.
down is
Yeah.
good.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think that's it though. It's so hard to identify those things that could like help, and do that. But I think with the trust
Hmm.
thing, like the only thing we can do, like this is the hard thing about trust is like we can only be responsible for ourselves, right? So like the
Hmm.
only thing we can do is do our best to be better people. And hopefully that example spreads. Hopefully we build things that are trustworthy, and hopefully eventually things change. But that's the best. I mean, that's the
It's
hard.
like,
That's
okay,
the
but
reality
it's
though.
like, yeah, hope that example spreads. Well, unless you're like doing some clickbaity BS on Instagram, it's not going to spread. And the only people doing that clickbaity stuff that sells is all this fake. Like I,
I know.
I, I laugh because uh I'm like I've been lifting weights for a while, like trying to get more muscular. And so all apparently there's like a steroid epidemic going on social media where like everybody is just abusing steroids. And and the crazy thing is they're all saying they're natural too. They're all like they're fucking juiced up. They have these like giant shoulder caps and everything like that. And they're like totally natural, dude. And
Dude, just started working out a year ago. Just body type.
yeah, totally natural. And uh and it's crazy because like you can't trust anyone.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
You
like
can't. And like,
one of my
but
friends was saying he was like, man, like my shoulders are like such a problem area for me. Like I don't know how to get those like giant cap shoulders. And I was like, dude, it's fucking steroids. Like there's this
yeah.
whole illusion that like you can look like these dudes on Flex magazine or any of these fitness influencers without massive drugs or some crazy genetic
Well,
predisposition.
dude,
It's just crazy.
good example. When I was working out in grad school, we were going 6 times a week, so I was working out a lot, right? There's these two guys there who like they're so funny. They were the funny. They would always work out in front of the mirror and always like flex and like watch each other and watch. It was cracking me up. They were super nice and they helped us out a lot with exercises. Really funny guys. But every time we were there, they were there. And I asked them, I was like, dude, how long are you guys here? They would spend 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like they weren't, I don't think they were using steroids. They were just, but the point is that's what it takes. Like if you really
Yeah.
want to look like that naturally, dude, it takes, and I mean, I don't even know if it was natural. It might not have been, but it takes a lot of
Yeah,
work. And I think that's the other thing, like people don't realize, like you can't get there with an hour and a half of the gym time 5 days a week. You're not going to like that. There's no freaking way unless you're taking other stuff. This is not
yeah,
possible. Yeah.
yeah. And then there's this other funny one. So this juiced up steroid dude, uh, Liver King was he was basically he's freaking gigantic. And he was saying how he's all natural and he gets it because he eats like raw liver and everything like that. And of course, there's sensationalism stuff on all these Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And then he gets caught doing steroids. And so he says he stops, but of course he just doesn't stop. He just keeps on doing it. Yeah.
But that's it. I think though, but okay, there is something we can learn from this. Like the fact that you can't trust anyone is like, I also think you shouldn't. Like, especially when it's like, I'm not saying like, loved ones and stuff. Yeah, you should have people in your life that you trust. That's important. But when it's stuff like people you don't know, like influencers, stuff, media stuff, like you should not trust it. And I think we're at a point where like we've realized that like you shouldn't trust even like articles, newspapers, stuff like that, because I think that's healthy. Instead, like when you see something, you should seek out other resources and try to verify it if it's something important to you, rather than trusting one source, because I don't think you can and nor should you anymore. Because there's too much like, and I think like we've seen time and again, like, and I think this is a healthy thing for everybody, right? That like everybody's trying to manipulate you. The media, social media, the news, governments, they all are trying to manipulate you to think a certain way. If you want to be an individual, you have to mistrust basically all that information. And when you're looking for something, seek it out yourself. I mean, I think that's a healthy attitude, though.
Hmm. Yeah. So anyways, the world's going to hell in a handbasket and
This is an optimistic
can't trust
episode.
anyone. I know a couple optimistic episodes this week.
Hey, if
Yeah.
you're looking for happiness and optimism, come to the Existential Stoic podcast and we will crush it.
Yeah. Right?
Well, if you somehow enjoyed that episode, I have no idea how the hell you could have. It's depressing. But, well, thanks for listening. Check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Maybe leave a review if you feel like it's, a good one.
There's the
And
one person still listening who's like, yeah, the world sucks. I agree with these guys. Yeah.
yeah, screw the world. Maybe we're just in a mood. I don't know. Uh, we'll be back later this week in another episode. Until then, though, later.
Later, Danny.